Thank you, Jack Murtha, for your generous words this morning, but especially for your great leadership. Jack Murtha had the courage to speak truth to power. It was a nightmare for the White House, and it has been bad for them ever since. Jack Murtha fought for our country on the battlefield, a decorated war veteran from Vietnam. And as a young man, he showed that conviction as an experienced, respected chairman of an appropriations subcommittee. He continues to make that fight for the American people. The men and women in uniform in America have no better friend than Jack Murtha, and he thinks their interests are served by bringing the troops home. Everyone in America who cares about the immorality of this war owes a debt of gratitude to Chairman Jack Murtha. Thank you, Jack, again. Thank you to the Campaign for America's Future for what you have done. A year ago, we were here, and I said to you, every step we take, walking precincts, whatever we do, will take us closer to a new direction for America. As Speaker of the House, I'm pleased to be here to say on behalf of all of the Democrats in the House, thank you to Campaign for America's Future for helping to make us a majority. Thank you to Bob Borisage for his tremendous leadership, for the intellectual resource he is to all of the issues that help us advance a progressive economic agenda for America. Thank you, Roger Hickey, for not only your kind words this morning, Roger Hickey, but for your great leadership as well. Under their leadership and with the mobilization of the Campaign for America's Future, we will take back America in 2007 and 2008. Thank you, Bob Borisage and Roger Hickey. So again, as I said, 1 year ago, we promised that if we won, we would take the country in a new direction. In the first 100 hours, we signaled that change to a new direction. First, we said we were going to make America safer by passing the 9/11 Commission recommendations. And following up on that, we have policies that say we can protect and defend America, but at the same time, we must protect and defend our civil liberties and our Constitution. That is the oath of office that we take. We said we were going to make our economy fair, and we did so in the first 100 hours, the first day, by passing a minimum wage. And then we followed, let's hear it for the minimum wage. And then we followed up on that by passing the Employee Free Choice Act, where every person in America who wants to belong to a union can belong to a union without fear of intimidation. And that passed the House under the leadership of George Miller. On July 24th, many of you will be with us at rallies around the country, observe the minimum wage coming into effect for the first time in 10 years. Because of the neglect of the Republicans, we were never able to pass an increase in the minimum wage and get it signed into law. But because of your work, our victory, our majority, July 24th, millions of Americans will get an increase in their wages. Consider that your victory. So protecting our country, growing our economy in a way that is fairer, where many more people get to participate in an economy, the prosperity of our country. We're promoting an innovation agenda to keep America #1 by creating good-paying jobs here in America. The economic security of America's families is essential to the well-being of our children. Protect our country, grow our economy, strengthen our families, and care for our children. That care must begin by universal access to quality health care for all Americans. That's why I'm so pleased that in our new direction budget, we were able to triple the funding for S-CHIP, the State Children's Health Insurance Program, from $25 billion to $75 billion. Is it a budget that puts children first? It also puts right up there with children our veterans. And on Friday, we passed legislation giving our veterans the biggest increase in their health benefits in the 77-year history of the Veterans Administration. Our veterans, our men and women in uniform, have done their jobs well, magnificently. We owe them more. We owe them more than to send them into battle without the training, without the equipment, without a plan for success based on a false premise. In the military, they say, on the battlefield, we will leave no soldier behind. Democrats say, and when they come home, we will leave no veteran behind. And what we owe them is not only the benefits that they have earned, we owe them a future worthy of their sacrifice. A country where we have, again, a fairer economy. A country where we have no discrimination. That's why I was so pleased that as part of what we've done in our first 100 days, we were able to pass a hate crimes bill that was very comprehensive, something I was very proud of our House Democrats for supporting across the political spectrum. Preserving our planet, protect our country, grow our economy, strengthen our families as we care for our children, preserve our planet. And we'll get to that. It's essential to what we do. Preserving our planet is a national security issue. Hey, listen, I don't mind this. I always say the best preparation for combat is combat. So just go for it. I respect your enthusiasm. Preserving our planet is a moral responsibility that we have. That's why we're working with religious groups, we're working with environmental groups, energy groups across the board. It is a national security issue to reduce our dependence on foreign oil. It is a health issue to clean up our environment. It's an economic issue for us to create good-paying, green-collar jobs, green jobs. I know you're hearing, I think, from Van Jones on this subject, maybe you already have. A new economy where, again, all kinds of people, young and old alike, can participate in this new economy. It is something that we must do, and America is lagging behind because the president doesn't accept the science. But we do, and today they're debating this energy bill in the Senate. We'll be taking it up soon. I have my energy independence for the 4th of July package that we will be introducing. This is revolutionary for our country. It's no longer nipping at the edges of the issue. It's going right down the middle, making it the strong economic issue, national security issue that it deserves to be, and I thank you all for your activism on that subject. When the American people asked for a new direction, they wanted a new direction on how we conducted our business in Washington, D.C., and that's why I want to commend some of our chairman, Henry Waxman, who has been a champion an oversight of this administration, scrutinizing the Iraq contracting, among other things. John Conyers in investigating the U.S. attorneys. George Miller in investigating the student loan fraud. And by the way, in committee a couple of days ago, Chairman Miller engineered out a bill that is the biggest proposal for student loans for helping middle and aspiring to middle income families in America to receive a higher education. It is the biggest bill since the GI Bill of Rights in the 1940s. So elections make a difference. Elections make a difference, whether it's in how we grow our economy, how we educate our children, lifetime learning for all Americans, how we provide access to quality health care, how we respect our veterans, how we end discrimination, in so many different ways, how we promote embryonic stem cell research to give hope to millions of families in America. Again, the president doesn't trust the science. We have that bill on the president's desk now that has passed the Congress. The biggest ethical, and so when we talk about conducting Congress to the highest ethical standard, with the most fiscal discipline, no new deficit spending, and in the most civil way, we have to recognize that the biggest ethical challenge facing our country is the war in Iraq. Let's look at this not only in opposition to the war, as I voted against it almost 5 years ago. At the time, I was the senior Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, the senior Democrat. And therefore, I was part of something called the Gang of Four, House Democrat and Republican, Senate Democrat and Republican. And we saw all of the intelligence, and I read it all. And after I saw it, I said, I'm voting against the war because the intelligence does not support the threat. There was nothing in the intelligence that said that Iraq posed an imminent threat to the United States. Nothing. So with their scare tactics, that's why I say this is the most unethical. How we sent our troops into war without the proper training, without the proper equipment, without a plan for success. Democrats want to have, we do have, a vision for stability in the Middle East. And the generals tell us, most recently in our response to the president, General Odom said, any strategy for stability in the Middle East must begin with the redeployment of our troops out of Iraq. And so while we don't have the 60 votes to overcome the Republicans in the Senate, or we don't have the president's signature, we have the right position on this issue, and the American people know it. So what we have to do is we can't accept the fact that 60 votes will prevent us from ending this war. We can't accept that the president will not sign the bill. Those are facts. Those are obstacles. But we have to overcome them, and we cannot wait until November 2008 to do so. We cannot wait until then. So I hope that we can channel all of this energy, which I fully respect. Your impatience with the war is totally justified. Who would have ever thought? May 1st, 2003, the president says, mission accomplished. 4 years later and counting. 4 years later and counting. What a tragedy. The war from the start has been a grotesque mistake. A grotesque mistake. We mourn the loss of life. That is our greatest loss. We mourn the loss of life. That is our greatest loss, over 3,500. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis. They're all God's children, too. They're all God's children, too. The opportunity cost of $1 trillion and more, that what we could have done for universal access to quality health care, the education of our children. Something very important to us we just did, $6.3 billion for victims of Katrina that we finally, a year and a half later, but think of all that we could do in our country and internationally to stop the spread of AIDS and disease and alleviation of poverty and all the values that we have, not only domestically but internationally. Instead, because of a stubbornness that is hard to explain, a president is committed to a war without end, so deeply dug into the hole he cannot see the light of day. But we have to help him see the light, and we must do it as soon as possible. It is long overdue. Darfur? Yes. How about Darfur? I said, I was in Darfur last year, and I came back and talked about it many places. Darfur challenges the conscience of our country. Actually, within a week, I was in Darfur and I was at Katrina. And it was amazing, because when I was in Darfur, I thought, how could this ever be allowed to happen? We know about it. It's not that anybody can say, oh, we didn't realize, we didn't know. It was right before our eyes. And the government in Khartoum, the government of Sudan, when we went to visit them after we saw what we saw in Darfur, told us that what we saw wasn't there. What we saw with our very own eyes, the children, the little children, 2 years old, 3 years old, still with a spark in their eyes, sparkle. Older than that, they had seen too much. Their mothers raped, their fathers killed, their villages pillaged, living in total abject poverty. The world knows about it. We must do something about it. It is a challenge to our conscience that we have not yet responded to. And we said after Rwanda, how shameful, we didn't do anything. Next time we will. And then to come home and see the challenge to the conscience and Katrina in our own country, where these little children, I visited them many places in Houston, where they had gone to live before they could go back home. And even my grandson, 4 years old at the time, in kindergarten, he came to us and he said, some of the children from New Orleans are in my class. It goes to the public school in Houston, and he said, some of the children are in my class. And he said, Mimi, that's my grandmother name, Mimi, these children just want to go home. Bringing out his Italian now. These children just want to go home. Finally, a year and a half later, under a Democratic Congress, we were able to pass $6.3 billion for victims of Katrina, waiving the Stafford Act match, which is as important as, in some cases, as the money. But we must do more, and we must do more. We must do more, and we must never, ever again break the compact between the American people and the government, that when disaster strikes, for whatever purpose, that we will be there for them. Let me tell you this. Just getting back to the war now, if I may. Do you mind if I do that? The philosopher Hannah Arendt said, some nations are on a flywheel of violence. They think that just one more act of war, one final act of violence, will stop violence. But all it does is sow the seeds for more violence. And that is what is going on in the world, and we must stop it. In my travels, perhaps you've read about my travels, in my travels, I've met with presidents and kings and prime ministers since I have become speaker. But the conversations that are most important to me are the ones that I have had with young people, especially throughout the Middle East, certainly in our own country. And I know there are lots of young people here, and that's very exciting. Let's hear it for the young people. Whether I was talking to postdoctorates or people in Saudi Arabia, or kids in the street in Damascus, or young people in the Palestinian territories, or people in Israel, wherever I was, Lebanon, kids, young people are weary of war. They're tired of politicians who do not show the political courage to end war, to make the difficult decisions. What they said to me is, we wonder if our political leaders even know how to govern without having the excuse of war, for not raising the standard of living, providing health care, educating the people, stopping global warming. The impatience of youth is what gives me hope about the future of this world, of this planet. And that is why, and they're saying, end it in Iraq, in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, in Darfur, and all of Africa, where all of that violence and conflict is. Whatever's happening any day of the week, something different in Lebanon. End these conflicts. Focus on making the future better for the next generation. These young people, you hear it in our own country, but I'm telling you, you hear it all over. They feel cheated of a better future because these wars are constraining. And they question whether leaders who revert to war to occupy the public's attention really know how to raise the standard of living. And the fact that some leaders don't want to engage in dialogue is a complete mystery to young people. I don't need to tell you, because young people are completely in dialogue internationally, on the internet. Emails are almost obsolete. We're on to so many other forms of communication. So people are in touch with each other. So when they see leaders saying, we won't talk to this one and we're not talking to that one, that is so of the past. It's not about the future. So, in any event, we have an opportunity in the November elections of 2008, which are on now, and I know that you've been hearing from candidates for President of the United States. You have seen the next President of the United States by the people who have come before you. Our country, I'd like just to enlarge this to a bigger place. Our country, for all the issues that we want to make a difference on, that add up to better public policy to improve the quality of life of the American people and make our democracy stronger, for all of that, we also go to a larger place where we say, this is a decision, not just about those issues, important as they are, a decision for greatness. That our country will be able to say to the world, we are great because we understand our place in the world. We're not great just because we are strong. We are great because we have values, and we want to project those values to the rest of the world. The world is waiting for America to assume its rightful place in the community of nations, a place where we're not condescending and disregard people's values and beliefs, but that we are cooperative, respectful, and looking for ways. I probably said this to you last year because it's a constant inspiration to me. When I was a student, now this is ancient history to many of you, but it was my youth, I was standing on the steps of the Capitol when President Kennedy made his inaugural address. And in his inaugural address, you all know, to citizens of America, ask not what you can. Everybody in the world knows that statement. But the very next sentence in his speech, President Kennedy said, to the citizens of the world, ask not what America can do for you, but what we can do working together for the freedom of mankind. What we can do working together for the freedom. Cooperative, respectful, again, not condescending and disrespectful. A vast contrast to what is happening now in our country. So you helped us become a majority in 2006. We think we're making a difference in taking the country in a new direction. That new direction cannot be complete until we bring our troops home. And help us do that. Help us do that. We can't just say, and it's a real reason. We can't just say, well, we can pass whatever we can in the House, but they need 60 votes in the Senate, and the President has the signature. Those are facts. Those are obstacles, but they cannot be insurmountable. We have the will of the American people to end this war. We have the enthusiasm of the American people to end this war. Instead of fighting us, which is your right to do, let's all work together to convince the American people that this is possible. Let's end the war. Let's bring the troops home. Let's make a decision for greatness in the election of 2008. Thank you, Campaign for America's Future, for your part in all of that. Thank you all very much.